What's up, YouTube? If you're a subscriber, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jourdan. My friends call me J-Town. Either one is fine with me. If you're interested in topics like trauma, addiction, abuse, mental health, animals, paranormal things, please subscribe so we can relate and support each other. I created this channel because I'm on dialysis and I currently do not have a relationship with my daughter. We'll get into that with a later video. I am making these videos so that if something happens to me, she can somewhat get to know who I was in this life, and also so she can hear my truth. I am also making this video because I need all the support I can get. I want to hear from like-minded individuals who have similar experiences that can relate to me, and we can support each other. Okay, so this particular video, viewer discretion is advised. Trigger warning for those sensitive to traumatic events. If that's the case, I would just suggest that you click off this video and come back later for a different video, I guess. May 19th was my father's birthday. Is my father's birthday? I don't know how you'd say that. My father passed away when I was 3 years old, and this video is going to be about how he died. Anyway, my whole life, I've been led to believe that I'm not good enough or that I'm too much to handle. I've always been afraid to speak my truth for fear of ridicule from my family. My family are textbook narcissists. Last year, I was officially discarded from the family, so here I am on YouTube. Not only looking for support I am missing from my family, but I am here preaching my truth. Anytime I brought up my father, I've always been gaslit and told I was too young to remember anything, but I do remember. I remember. This is what I remember. I was 3 years old. My mother had put me to bed. I don't know if I was sleeping and I woke up or if I was already awake. My memory is literally just all of a sudden I was underneath my covers and the lights flipped on, and I'm underneath my covers, and I peek out from under my covers, and I look at my doorway, and there is several men that I don't know, all dressed in black, and they coaxed me out of my bed, told me to go into my sister's room, who was right next door to my room. As I got up to go into my sister's room, in my doorway, these men were standing in a line trying to block my view of my father, who was lying on the ground in handcuffs. Now, anyway, they led me into my sister's room, and they closed the door, and she read me a book, Norma Jean Jumping Bean. I'll never forget that. She read me a book, Norma Jean Jumping Bean. And after that, I don't really remember too much. All I remember is I was able to go into a cop car, and they took me to my grandparents' house, who lived down the street at the time. Now, I'm sure you're wondering what the hell exactly happened. So, to be honest, I didn't even really understand what happened until I was about 18 years old. My whole life, I was just told to tell people anytime I was asked about my dad that someone said that my father was selling drugs and told the police. The police then came into my home unannounced. My father thought that it was somebody coming to rob our home, so he came out with a gun and they shot him and killed him. You know, I would tell that to people, and it didn't really dawn on me that that's not normal until I was about in third grade. I can remember telling my third grade teacher that, my father, somebody said that my father was selling drugs and lied about it, and the police came in my home and unannounced, and my father shot at them and they shot him back. and killed him. And I can remember her reaction, and her reaction was one of like, and that made me like, I never really was able to talk about it. I haven't talked about it with my sister at all, really. To talk about it with my mom, she was very vague with things, which, I mean, is understandable. It was a very traumatic event for her. So it was never really brought up. When I was about 18 years old, I decided to look his name up on Google, and a few news articles actually came up about it because it was a huge ordeal. My mom ended up suing the city over it for a wrongful death lawsuit. And anyway, I am just going to read the news reports because it can explain kind of what happened in a little more detail than what I can tell you, because I was only 3 years old when it happened. So, and I'll leave a link for the news reports down in the description. So if you're interested in seeing it for yourself, if you don't want to, listen to me reading it to you, you can go ahead and read it yourself. So there's 4 news reports that I'm going to be reading. The first one title says, "Friends think man didn't know he was firing at police." And it states, "Last week, Mark Joseph Pyle sent 6 red roses to his wife. I love you," the card said. "Saturday, those roses stood in a vase a few feet away from a bullet hole that scarred a refrigerator and reminded 12 friends who had gathered at Pyle's home of the death of their friend. 2 more holes from SWAT officers' service weapons pierced a wall a few feet from 8-year-old Brittany Pyle's room." That's my sister. "The dozen friends gathered to talk with reporters expressed the same thought. Mark Pyle Mark Pyle, being my father, would have not fired a .45 caliber pistol Thursday night if he had known the men charging in his home were police officers. Pyle's shots hit one of the officers in the chest, but body armor stopped the bullet. Another pierced an officer's right thigh. Both were treated at Pioneer Valley Hospital early Friday and released. I don't believe he heard them saying police, police," said Danny Richards, who had known Pyle for 8 years. "If someone crashed through my front window, I would think they were after my family." Richards wondered why police served the warrant when Pyle's wife and 2 children were in the home. There were 100 different ways they could have taken him without making it dangerous for his family. A bullet fired by police at Pyle ricocheted off the wall into another behind the first wall. Jourdan Pyle, that's me, 3, was lying in her bed. An explosion from a police-thrown stun grenade shattered a hole in the couple's bedroom floor and wall 3 feet across the hall from the 2 children's bedrooms. West Valley Police Chief Dennis Nordfeldt said none of that would have been necessary had Pyle not shot at the officers. "Mark Pyle had a choice. He left us no alternative," he said. Police feared that if daytime entry were attempted, officers would be exposed as well as passersby. This is a residential area. The number of people in jeopardy would be reduced if warrant was served at night. Third Circuit Court Judge William Thorne authorized the warrant based on information about M16s and other weapons believed to be in the house, the release said. The SWAT officers and federal agents recovered an ounce of marijuana and other narcotics. They also found more than 9,000 rounds of handgun, shotgun, and high-power rifle ammunition. A 12-gauge shotgun loaded with a buckshot was found under Pyle's bed, and a .22 caliber rifle was also removed from the home. In the aftermath of that night, Pyle's friends talked about his love of sports and dozens of trophies that adorned the family mantelpiece. They recalled basketball, football, baseball, games the 32-year-old played. "He was a good man regardless of what's been said or written so far. He loved sports and he loved his family," Richard said. Additional information. Officers' reasons. West Valley Police say several incidents and information from confidential sources led them to use a no-knock warrant to enter Mark Pyle's home Thursday night, according to a press release. A confidential informant contacted authorities about large quantities of weapons and narcotics being sold at Pyle's home. One told police their son had a major addiction to cocaine, marijuana, and Pyle was named as the source of the drugs. A local businessman reported to detectives that one of his employees was stealing ski equipment and giving the goods to Pyle in exchange for narcotics. An unidentified source called Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms agents report that Pyle had acquired 2 fully automatic M16 rifles. The source reported that Pyle and his associates were cultivating marijuana in southern Utah area. Based on information from sources, a West Valley undercover detective negotiated with Pyle to buy 5 to 10 pounds of marijuana. No transaction was completed, police reported. The day of the shooting, the police followed and stopped a known associate of Mark Pyle for outstanding warrants. Marijuana was recovered from the associate's vehicle and the man was arrested, a press release said. Investigators told the judge in a search warrant affidavit that Pyle's home was outfitted with an attack dog and motion detectors that turned on outside lights. So, that's one report. This is the next report that really makes me emotional, honestly. A title, Widow Sues West Valley Over Death of Spouse and 91 Shootout at Home. The widow of a West Valley man killed by... Start all over. The widow of a West Valley man killed in a shootout with police has filed civil rights lawsuit against West Valley and several of the city's police officers. Tracy Pyle, being my mother, filed a suit at the U.S. District Court Friday, almost 2 years after the day Mark Pyle, my father, 32, is how old he was shot by police while they attempted to execute a no-knock warrant. Tracy Pyle accused the police of depriving her husband, herself, and the couple's 2 children their civil rights when police broke into the Pyle's home at 11:45 p.m. on May 30th and shot her husband. Our position is that the city did nothing wrong, said Deputy City Attorney Robert Wall. The search warrant was lawfully issued and executed. Everything surrounding the incident was lawful. 2 West Valley police officers were wounded in the shootout with Pyle. The Pyles were awakened by the crash of breaking glass in the night of the shooting. Pyle got out of his bed, grabbed a loaded .45 caliber handgun, and went into the hallway, according to the suit. His wife followed. The house was completely dark. Mark Pyle walked to the end of the hallway and then yelled at his wife to call police. As she ran back to the bedroom, she heard gunfire. The police did not identify themselves before shooting and were not in uniform, she said in her suit. After the exchange of gunfire, Mark Pyle came back into the bedroom with blood on his hands and his body and telling Tracy Pyle that he had been shot, the suit said. Police ordered Mark Pyle and Tracy to leave the room with their hands up. Tracy Pyle did, but told police that her husband had been shot and couldn't come out. A police officer threw a concussion stun grenade into the bedroom where Mark Pyle was laying on the floor. The grenade exploded. An officer rushed and went into the bedroom and shot Mark Pyle several more times in the torso while he was lying on the ground. I usually don't get emotional when I read this, but I guess reading it out loud just kind of sucks. Okay. I just gotta finish this. Mark Pyle died a few hours later at LDS Hospital. Okay. Police also assaulted Tracy Pyle, she said in her suit. When she came into the front room with her hands up, police immediately handcuffed her. When she tried to tell them her husband was shot, an officer told her to get down on the floor. Because of the awkwardness of having her hands cuffed behind her back, she could not get down on the floor very easily. An officer knocked her feet out from underneath her with a nightstick and hit her in the middle of the back with a nightstick to force her to the floor, the suit says. Police used a no-knock search warrant late at night because they believed Pyle had 2 fully automatic M16 rifles. A daytime approach to the house could have endangered officers. Sorry. Okay, get it together. Okay. A daytime approach to the house could have endangered officers and passersby. West Valley Police Chief Dennis Nordfeld said after the shooting, I've got to get through this, my God. Okay, I can do this. Officers found 9,000 rounds of ammunition and a shotgun in Pyle's home. Friends of Mark Pyle were angered over the shooting. They told reporters that he would not have fired at police. He probably believed the men breaking into his home were going to hurt his family. But Salt Lake County Attorney Office investigated the shooting and said that West Valley Police acted properly. Investigators checked into Tracy Pyle's assertion that the officers didn't announce themselves, but Bud Elliott, chief deputy of the officer, chief deputy. However, the investigation showed that the police identification was loudly announced during the entry into the home. Elliott said at the time of the investigation, Tracy Pyle did not settle with the city before filing her suit. Wall said, after the shooting, we were contacted by a couple different lawyers who said they were calling on her behalf, but they didn't try to negotiate a settlement. Then the matter just sort of died until today. We hadn't heard anything for 1.5 years. All right, so that is the second. Here is the third. Now, these articles that I'm going to be reading are about my dad's dad, my grandfather. Okay, this is what happened, years after. This is titled, Father of Man in Shootout Draws 87-month prison term. This is my family, okay? The father of man killed in shootout with police was sentenced to 87 months in prison by a federal judge Wednesday in attempting to sell cocaine. U.S. District Judge David Sam sentenced Wayne Compton Pyle to prison for trying to sell cocaine to undercover officers in January 1991. 7 months earlier, Pyle's son, Mark, 32, was killed in a shootout with West Valley Police during a raid on the son's home. 2 West Valley police officers were wounded on the May 31st, 1991 incident, which sparked controversy over the use of no-knock warrants. Sam made concessions to both the prosecution and defense when he sentenced Pyle. The judge refused to allow Pyle's grief over his son's death to weigh in on the sentencing. But Sam also refused to take into consideration threats Pyle made against West Valley police officer after his son's death. 5 months after his son's death, Pyle told federal informants that he would pay $20,000 to anyone who agreed to assassinate the officers who shot his son, according to an affidavit filed in U.S. District Court. Pyle also said he wanted West Valley Police Chief Dennis Nordfeld killed, according to the affidavit. I bear no animosity towards law enforcement officers, Pyle told the judge. I don't even know the name of the chief of police out in West Valley. Pyle's attorney, Ron Yankich, said Pyle was just talking tough with the informant. Sam agreed. He noted that Pyle didn't mention his search for an assassin when he attempted to sell cocaine to the undercover officers 3 months later. The federal informant may have also been motivated to self-interest when he told agents Pyle was searching for a contract killer, Sam said. However, Sam also refuses to allow Pyle to use his grief over his son's death an excuse for his own weapons and drug activity. He lost a son, Yankich told Sam. He can't get that back. Certainly there is compassion for anyone losing a child for any reason, Sam said. However, this defendant must carry a certain degree of responsibility for involvement of the son in drugs and other illegal activities. West Valley Police obtained a no-knock warrant for Pyle's home, learning that he may have been selling drugs in exchange for weapons. Officers expected to find a stash of guns in his home, but only found ammunition and an ounce of marijuana. However, months after the shooting, Wayne Pyle showed 3 guns, including a machine gun, to informants and told them the guns had belonged to his son. Pyle has spent the last 10 months in the Salt Lake County jail, and that 10 months was deducted from his 87-month prison term. That was Article 3. Here's Article 4. Titled, Father of Man Killed by West Valley Police Arrested on Drug Firearm Charges. The father of the man killed by police last summer has been arrested on charges of possessing cocaine and machine guns. Wayne Compton Pyle, which is my grandfather, 58, father of Mark Joseph Pyle, my father, has been charged with selling more than 130 grams of cocaine and possessing 2 unregistered machine guns. Pyle will be arraigned Friday in the U.S. District Court on charges that he sold cocaine 4 times from August through October last year. He is also charged with possessing a Ruger Mini 14 22 caliber rifle and an American 180 22 caliber rifle. Both guns are classified as machine guns under federal law. Pyle's son, Mark, 32, was killed by a West Valley Police SWAT team on May 30th as they kicked in the door of his home in the middle of the night while executing a no-knock warrant. Mark Pyle fired on police, injuring 2 officers. West Valley Police Detective Kelly Rushton returned fire. hitting Mark Pyle 4 times in the chest. He died an hour later in the hospital. Following the shooting, police found 9,000 rounds of ammunition, but not the machine guns they expected to find. Anyway, traumatizing, right? So basically, my dad died over marijuana that they found and ammunition. I mean, my mother sued the city for a wrongful death lawsuit and we won. So I don't want to hear anybody in the comments saying that my dad was a horrible person, because he wasn't. He was doing what anybody else would have done to protect their family from somebody who was breaking into their home. That incident that happened to my father changed so much in my family. So much. Anyway, the next video I am going to be talking about how I was raised, what it was like for me growing up, and yeah, so thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has. And I hope to see you at the next video. Bye for now.